I invite you to pray with me as we come in this time of sharing and breaking open the Word. Oh God, may the words of my mouth and the meditations of our hearts open us up to your heart this day. Amen. All right, do we have any history buffs in the congregation? History buffs? Anybody know what anniversary in the peace movement happened on December 1st? Anybody? It was World AIDS Day, but that's not what I'm going for. December 1st. Anybody? Rosa Parks sat down on the front seat of a bus. And this is the way they taught it to me in the little town in West Texas where I grew up, that this woman got on the bus. She was a seamstress. She was so exhausted, and she just couldn't that time make it to the back of the bus. Anybody heard that story? Yeah? Guess what? It ain't true. It's not true. In fact, it has been a story kind of repeated in white culture to make Rosa Parks and the civil rights movement seem a little bit less threatening. Rosa Parks had been learning to be a non-violent activist for months and months. With other people, she had been bathed in prayer and supported by singing hymns of justice and truth. She had been preached and prayed up, and they planned the day, and there were going to be many people who would go into action because they knew there would be an immediate reaction. And there was, wasn't there? December 1st, kind of the beginning of an Advent time of year. And peace began to break forth in our nation that needed some breaking so something deeper and truer could come forth. That civil rights are human rights, and all of us are given these rights as citizens of this nation. You know what happened on December 1st this year? On Chapman University campus, our Peace Studies professor decided we're going to hold a 2-hour workshop at 5 o'clock in the evening. We're going to call it Nonviolence 101. Now, I've worked on this campus for 8 years. And there's two things I know about it. One, we have great things going on every evening. I mean, I literally could never go home in the evening and find something incredible to go listen to or experience. But the second thing that is true is when you get close to finals week, students don't show up. You know? Next week is our last week of classes. The week after that is finals week. So last Thursday, I went, oh, oy vey, they're going to do this great workshop and nobody's going to show up. And guess what? Over 100 students showed up. I got there 10 minutes early, and at one point, Lisa, the Peace Studies professor, looked at me and she said, Nancy, you can shut your mouth now. I guess I was sitting there like, you know. But how heartened I was to have students wanting to come and begin to learn the principles that inspired Rosa Parks and Martin Luther King and Gandhi. And as Gandhi, the good Hindu, has taught us, he thinks inspired Jesus of Nazareth. What we were there to begin to learn is that the principles of nonviolence are ways to direct change and ask for change, but without bringing any kind of hateful dispute of heart. Whether you like them or not, that is what we are seeing among the encampment in North Dakota at Standing Rock. They are bathing themselves as in prayer and in singing and worship of many different traditions, but always grounded in the native understandings of protecting the land and water. They're using non-violence. It's an incredibly powerful tool. I thought it was so fitting this week to spend the week meditating on this particular passage from Isaiah. It begins, a shoot's going to come up from a stump. If you've read earlier in Isaiah, you know there's been a description of all the forests have been laid low. It's sort of like clear cutting in Oregon. But chapter 11 begins poetically with this image of a shoot growing out of what seemed dead. I work with a lot of students, and they're, by and large, pretty liberal, and they have felt really down since the election. But one of them came up to me after that 2-hour workshop, and she said, "We are here for a time like this, and we're going to learn how to make a difference from your generation." And she pointed at me, and I went, "Well, almost." Almost. A little bit older than me, but almost. And she felt a shoot of green growing up in her heart and her life that could make a difference in the world. The woman who came to train us said, it doesn't matter what your issue is, and maybe us having different things we care about is important. Can you imagine a world where everyone cared about the environment and no one cared about the elderly? Can you imagine a world where everyone was into recycling, but no one was interested in literacy? I think our different passions are given by God because the world has so many needs. And if God needs hands in this world, whose hands does God reach for? Ours. We've got to be God's hands in this world. What this student in my little dialogue for her was coming up amidst her is realizing for the first time that she had to be the change she wanted to see. But even more important, this professor of nonviolence said the only way to live and do activism from a standpoint of nonviolence is to always do the work within. Always be ready to calm your own anger response, your own judgment, your own harshness, to cultivate real and active listening, even when you violently disagree in your heart, to treat others who are different from you with extraordinary respect. When she was talking about this phenomenon, and I was thinking about all the ways we work at our Fish Interfaith Center to cultivate that, a labyrinth out every Monday for people to walk prayerfully, teaching mindfulness meditation and having prayer groups, all of those things to cultivate that spirit within. I was hearing again these words of Isaiah, these mortal enemies in the animal world living in peaceful coexistence. And for the very first time, I heard that scripture and I went, ooh, I feel like I have a lion and a lamb at war in me sometimes. And I need to find that peace within so that I can meet others who are not showing peace themselves. I think, arguably, the best ministry gig in the United Church of Christ and Disciples of Christ. I get about 100 of congregation's brightest and best, and I get to be with them for 4 years. And we do a retreat every semester, and we have student-led worship every Wednesday night. If you're in Orange on Wednesday night at 7 o'clock during the semester, we'd love to have you join us. We have fun events, we do mission together, we do service together. And sometimes I get to lead student trips. So guess where I get to go in January? I get to go to India. I'm taking 18 students, and it's a world religions course, particularly focusing on the religions, the 4 religions that were founded in India. You know them? First, what? Hinduism, of course, the biggest one. What else? Actually, Islam was not. Buddhism. Jainism. Sikhism, yes. Oh, you all, very good. Very, very good. And I am taking in these 18 students, don't do the math, because I think I'm going to leave somebody out. I've got 2 Sikh students. I've got 2 Buddhist students. I don't have any Muslim students. Darn, I have to do this again. I have 2 Jewish students. I have 3 UCC and Disciple students. I have several evangelical Christians. I have 2 Catholic students. I have 3 agnostics and 2 students who said, well, I was kind of raised this, but my dad is this and my mother's this, and and I don't know who I am. I'm not the professor. I'm the organizer of the trip. And I'm here to help us go to these amazing places. Amritsar, the Golden Temple, where the Sikhs have their most amazing center of their spiritual life. To Bodh Gaya, to sit under the Bodhi tree where the Buddha was enlightened. To Varanasi, the most sacred portion of the Ganges River, where the Hindus have so felt, if you die in Varanasi and can have your body cremated and your ashes put in the Ganges, you are released from the wheel of rebirth. Sacred place. To Khajuraho, a place of ancient Hindu and Jain temples. And then just because we can, we'll stop by an old tomb a mausoleum called the Taj Mahal. Because you got to see it because you're close, right? Good job. Good get, right?
Not bad.
Not bad. I've been reading the last 3 weeks a book that, I always call them Gone with the Wind books, because when I was 13, I read Gone with the Wind twice in a summer. You know, those big, you know what I'm talking about. Those big, thick, yeah. It's called The Long Road to Freedom, and it tells the story of India's move to independence. I'm about 80 pages from the end, and I've almost stopped reading because I know the next chapter is the assassination of Gandhi, and I don't want to go there. I know too much. So I've been reading about these principles of a nonviolence, but what I have learned that I did not know is I knew Gandhi had used nonviolence to wake up the conscience of the British, right? And it was because of Gandhi that the British finally said, we can no longer subjugate these people. And I knew as the British were withdrawing that old, terrible hatred between Sikhs and Muslims and Hindus broke out, and terrible, terrible killing. What I did not know is that Gandhi, in the last years of his life, was using his nonviolent principles, what he called, ready for this, I love this word, soul force. Soul force. To remind Indians, his Hindu, Muslim, and Sikh, that they were brothers and sisters to each other. What I hadn't realized is that he moved his focus so profoundly. I think we need soul force in America today, because we have let campaigns pull us apart and make us forget our common humanity. Now, I'm not saying don't argue about policies, and we need to be doing that. We need to be stepping up and having our voices heard about policies that we think are important. But we need to be tough on issues and soft on people. I'm going to say something out loud in front of God and everybody that I have not said out loud in a church yet. But Donald Trump is my brother. God has made him so. And even though in my heart I am not happy about the outcome of the election, I am simply called to be a light of reconciliation in a divided country. How about